So check this out. How can one of the most hated, controversial tennis players be the best in the world? He has earned a whopping 180 million US dollars in career prize money, which is the highest total of any tennis player ever. He's been called arrogant, cold, and robotic. But behind the headlines lies a player who's broken every record there is, and done it while standing alone. Novak Djokovic is the champion nobody wanted, yet couldn't be stopped. The boy from a bombed-out city in Serbia, training on a court so broken it barely had a net. But from that chaos, rose a man who would come to dominate the most graceful sport on earth. The survivor, the perfectionist, the man who refused to break, even when the world wanted him to. Novak has beaten all odds. But why do some people still doubt him? It all started in Belgrade, a place where tennis was hardly a dream. Novak's parents, Sergin and Dijana, ran a small pizza restaurant and a ski shop to get by. They weren't rich, they weren't connected, but they had belief. Who knows, maybe if Novak didn't pick up a racket, he would have become a pizzaiolo. As a child, Novak was full of energy, always curious, always moving. His first racket wasn't even his own, it was borrowed. But when he picked it up, something just clicked. Then came the war. Serbia was bombed for 78 days straight. While other kids stayed indoors, Novak would sneak out early in the morning to hit balls on cracked courts covered in dust and debris. Sirens wailed above, jets screamed through the air, but Novak kept playing. Imagine during a war, and Novak is still outside hitting balls. No wonder he is the greatest player alive. He later said, "We didn't have normal lives, but maybe that's what made me stronger." It was during those dark days that he met Jelena Gencic, a legendary Serbian coach who had trained Monica Seles and Goran Ivanišević. The moment she saw Novak, she knew. She told his parents, "This boy is a golden child. He's destined for greatness." Under her guidance, Novak learned not just to hit the ball, but to respect the game. He was obsessed. While other kids were watching cartoons, Novak was watching Pete Sampras. He would mimic Sampras's serve in front of the mirror for hours. But Serbia couldn't offer him the future he needed. So, at just 12 years old, Novak left home for a tennis academy in Germany, barely speaking the language, living away from his family, chasing an impossible dream. By the time Novak turned professional in 2003, tennis was already dominated by two giants, Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. Federer, the artist, graceful, untouchable. Nadal, the warrior, relentless, fiery. Both players were loved and admired. For years it seemed there was no room for anyone else. The sport was a two-man kingdom. But then came the Serbian storm, and in 2007, Djokovic broke into the top 10. And by 2008, he reached his first Grand Slam final at the Australian Open and beat Jo-Wilfried Tsonga to win his first major title. He was just 20 years old. The world saw it. A new player who didn't just want to join Federer and Nadal. He wanted to beat them. But even then, it wasn't easy. Djokovic suffered with breathing problems and fatigue. He'd often retire mid-match, gasping for air, and the media mocked him. Federer once hinted that Novak quit too easily. Critics said he was soft, mentally fragile. Man, oh man, they didn't know what was coming. In 2010, Novak made a life-changing discovery. He had a severe gluten intolerance. For years, he'd been unknowingly sabotaging his own body, which affected his whole game. He switched to a strict diet. No gluten, no dairy, no processed sugar. It changed everything. Suddenly, he was faster, sharper, stronger, and then in 2011, Novak became unstoppable. That year, he went on one of the most dominant runs in tennis history. 41 straight wins, 10 titles, and 3 Grand Slam victories. He beat Federer, he beat Nadal, he beat everyone. But still, he was becoming the best on the court, but the people still didn't love him like they did Rafa and Roger. Then at Wimbledon that year, he defeated Nadal in the final, fell to the grass, and plucked a blade to eat. Tasting victory, literally. That moment symbolized everything. from war-torn Belgrade to the lawns of Wimbledon. The boy who once played under bomb sirens was now the best player in the world. He became world number 1 and stayed there for 122 consecutive weeks. How crazy is that? The world crowned a new king. What made Novak's era unforgettable wasn't just his dominance. It was his rivals. His battles with Rafael Nadal became wars of endurance. The 2012 Australian Open final lasted 5 hours and 53 minutes, the longest Grand Slam final in history. Both men collapsed at the net afterward, exhausted, barely able to stand. Novak won that night, but it wasn't just a victory, it was survival. Then there was Roger Federer, elegance versus precision. Their 2019 Wimbledon final became an instant classic. Federer had 2 championship points, 2 chances to close it out. But Novak? He didn't flinch. He saved both, dragged the match to a 5th-set tiebreak, and won 13-12, the longest Wimbledon final ever. The crowd was against him. The world wanted Roger to win, but Novak thrived in the noise. He later said, "When the crowd chants Roger, I hear Novak." Then came Andy Murray, a rivalry built on respect. Murray was often the one standing between Novak and history. They met in 7 Grand Slam finals. Murray won 2, but Djokovic always found a way back. And now, a new rivalry. Carlos Alcaraz, the fearless new generation. Their clash at Wimbledon 2023 was a passing of the torch, or maybe just a warning that Novak's fire still burned bright. But behind all that success were moments of heartbreak. In 2016, after completing the career Grand Slam at Roland Garros, something even Federer and Nadal took years to achieve, Novak seemed unbeatable. But then, he broke. The pressure, the expectations, the endless scrutiny. It all caught up with him. His motivation faded. His form dipped. He lost early at tournaments, looked tired and disinterested, and the rumors swirled. People said he was finished, that his time was over, that he should just retire. It was embarrassing. And if that wasn't enough, then came the elbow injury, the one that would nearly end his career. For 2 years, he battled pain, withdrew from tournaments, and watched as his ranking plummeted. And in 2017, he even split from his entire coaching team. Boris Becker, Marian Vida. He dumped everyone. He called it a journey of self-discovery. But it was clear he was lost, and a lot of people were smirking behind his back. When he had elbow surgery in 2018, he admitted he cried for days. "I didn't want to touch a racket," he said. But Novak doesn't stay down. By mid-2018, he was back. He won Wimbledon, then the US Open, then the Australian Open. 3 Grand Slams in a row, again. And just like that, the king had returned. But with Novak, greatness always came with friction. While Federer was adored and Nadal was respected, Djokovic often found himself in the middle, loved by some, misunderstood by others, and even hated by some more. He showed emotion, maybe too much for some. He tore shirts, smashed rackets, and shouted at crowds. But that was Novak, raw, human, unapologetic. During the 2020 US Open, in a moment of frustration, he accidentally hit a line judge with a ball. He was disqualified. Headlines exploded. Critics pounced. People were saying they always knew he wasn't a nice guy, and that's why he's no Nadal or Federer. That same year, during the Adria Tour, an exhibition he organized during the pandemic, became super controversial after players tested positive for COVID-19. The backlash was brutal. And of course, the 2022 Australian Open visa saga, one of the most dramatic off-court moments in tennis history. Djokovic arrived in Melbourne unvaccinated, believing he had an exemption. But what followed was chaos. He was detained, questioned, held in a small immigration facility for days. The world watched. Politicians weighed in. Protesters gathered outside. Eventually, the Australian government deported him. He was forced to miss the tournament he'd dominated for a decade. He even got the nickname No VAX. It was the darkest moment of his career. But Novak didn't lash out. He returned home quietly, trained harder, and waited for his time. And when he came back in 2023, he reclaimed the Australian Open, his 10th title there. The ultimate revenge. But even legends break. The 2021 US Open. It was supposed to be the crowning moment. Djokovic had won the first 3 Grand Slams of the year. All that was left was one more. The calendar Grand Slam, something no man had achieved since 1969. But in the final, against Daniil Medvedev, his body and mind finally gave in. He lost in straight sets. And as the crowd gave him a standing ovation, Novak cried, not out of disappointment, but gratitude. He said later, "For the first time in my life, I felt love from the New York crowd." That night, he didn't just lose a match. He gained the world's heart. And yet, despite everything he's accomplished, Djokovic remains one of the most complicated figures in sports. He is, by the numbers, the greatest men's tennis player of all time. More Grand Slams than Federer or Nadal, more weeks at number 1, more Masters titles. Yet, still to this day, he isn't loved in the same way. Federer was adored for his elegance, Nadal revered for his humility and heart. Novak, on the other hand, has often been the outsider, the man fans cheer against even as he breaks every record. Some say it's his intensity, others his defiance, but perhaps it's because he doesn't fit the fairy tale mold. He's not the effortless genius, or the humble warrior. He's the fighter, the survivor. And in a sport built on grace, the gentleman's game, Djokovic embodies grit. He doesn't glide, he grinds. And maybe that's why, though he may never be everyone's favorite, he's undeniably the toughest of them all. Novak's greatest weapon has never been his backhand or his return of serve. It's his mind. While others see pressure, Novak sees opportunity. He once said, "When the match is on the line, I'm the calmest person in the stadium." He meditates daily, practices yoga, reads spiritual texts, and visualizes every point before he plays it. His discipline is unmatched. He doesn't just train his body, he trains his emotions. That's how he survived the mental torture of 5-hour finals, jeering crowds, and endless doubt. Where others crumble, Novak centers himself. And maybe that's what truly separates him from everyone else. The legacy. The numbers don't lie. Let's put this in perspective. By 2025, Novak Djokovic had 24 Grand Slam titles, the most in men's tennis history. Over 400 weeks as world number 1, more than Federer or Nadal. Double career Grand Slam, winning each major at least twice. Olympic medals, ATP finals, and a winning record against nearly every top player in his era. But beyond the records and trophies, what defines Djokovic isn't the numbers. It's the journey. From a boy dodging bombs to a man holding the world in his hands. From an underdog to an unshakable symbol of endurance. What makes Djokovic's career legendary is that his rivals pushed him, and he pushed them back. Against Federer, he learned grace under pressure. Against Nadal, he learned to suffer and survive. Against Murray, he learned friendship through fire. And now, against Alcaraz and Sinner, he's learning to fight time itself. When Novak steps on the court, he doesn't just play his opponent. He plays the moment, the crowd, and his own expectations. Even today, at 38, he faces hungry challengers who grew up watching him dominate. But instead of fading, he adapts. He changes his game, his tactics, his mind. Because for Novak, tennis isn't just about winning. It's about evolving. Away from the spotlight, Novak Djokovic is a father, a husband, and a humanitarian. He's fluent in multiple languages, often speaking to crowds in their native tongue, out of respect. He signs autographs for hours, greets ball kids by name, and thanks the fans even when they boo him. He's the man who bows to the court after victory, a gesture of gratitude. For someone accused of arrogance, Djokovic's humility often shows in the quiet moments, when no one's watching. Now, even as the years go by, Novak Djokovic remains the standard. The man to beat, the one still rewriting history. His rivals have faded. Federer, Nadal, and Murray have all retired. But Novak, he's still there. Relentless, defiant, hungry. At 38, he still moves like a man 10 years younger. Still stretches like rubber, still returns, serves like he's reading minds. And when young players stare him down, thinking they can take him, he reminds them that greatness doesn't age. So, when you watch Novak Djokovic, arms outstretched after another victory, eyes closed in calm defiance, remember where he came from. A little boy from Belgrade, hitting balls under the sound of bombs. A son who made a promise to his parents. A man who turned doubt into dominance and pain into power. He's not perfect. He's emotional, stubborn, flawed. But maybe that's why his story matters. Because Novak Djokovic isn't just about tennis. He's about resilience. About proving that no matter where you start, no matter how many times the world counts you out, you can still rise. And maybe that's why when it's all said and done, when the numbers fade and the records are broken, people will look back and say, he wasn't just the greatest of his era. He was the most human of them all.